Hello, everyone, and welcome to Telling Tales. I'm Matt, your GM for the night, as I am GM for every single night, brackets of Symbaroum, end brackets. Before we start doing the roleplay thing, let's go through the nonsense promo stuff. If you check below this video, whether you be on YouTube or Twitch, you will find a bunch of links to our social media, our Patreon, our Discord, our merch store, all that usual stuff. We stream a number of campaigns on a weekly or fortnightly basis. Mondays at the moment is alternating between We Deal in Lead and Warhammer. Wednesdays is Symbaroum, and Thursdays is currently fortnightly Yellow King. That started last week. Go check out either our YouTube or Twitch. It'll still be up on Twitch as well if you want to watch all 3.5 hours of that debut episode. And it was very, very good, I think. And we also run one-shots on a monthly basis. The next one is this Sunday. It's Cloud Empress, a lovely little indie TTRPG. So tune in for that. It'll be good fun. Yeah. Good, fun stuff. Good, clean fun, as all our videos are for the first 10 minutes, as mandated by YouTube. So let's bring on the players, and they can give a little bit of a recap, and we can then launch into episode 4 of What's Bred in the Bone. And our first player this week is going to be John. John plays Sir Arindar, the last remaining member of House Dar, duelist, adventurer, and kind of a nice guy. Hi, John. How are you? How is Arindar? And why don't you tell us about the events, roughly, of What's Bred in the Bone so far?
I am good. Arindar is good. And the events leading up so far are that our party were asked to escort the Lightbringer de Saba on a little tour of the counties. Seem to have come to our end, our final stop in Arenia. We're asked to go and ask after a friend of the Lightbringers, and then found out that he'd been burnt to death. So now we're trying to investigate that murder and a related murder of a witch being burnt to death, and a possibly related murder of someone else having maybe like bugs grow in them and kill them. All in a city where the guards themselves aren't actually allowed to investigate this, because the Duke is taking an interest, and the Duke might be investigating this, or it might not be. And also the church is very upset because one of the murders was the leader of the local church, as in like the bishop, the first Theurg.
The bishop.
So the bishop.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's mostly the story so far. We've
that's pretty
been
much where you
given completely off the table, unofficially, some information from the commander of the local guard. I think our last thing was looking at the site of one of the fires.
Yes. The very last thing you did was go to the house of poor burned Father Ambardo, and you found a kind of a diary note that he had written that maybe hints at a few things, or maybe not. That's about it. Let's wheel on the other players, and we'll start with Chris. Chris is the player of fan favorite character Steo, former infantryman and city guard turned reluctant, grumbling sellsword. Chris, how are you? How's Steo? And who do you think is responsible for the murders?
Fan favorite, player least favorite, Steo. I came to the conclusion yesterday that this Green Walker did it 100% for reasons that I have not yet worked out, probably involving the theft of an artifact.
The Green Weaver.
That's the one.
Yes. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's bring on our next player. It's only Stephen, who plays Elindra, former Templar novice, turned adventurer that likes to cut things in half with a big old, maybe weird possessed sword. Stephen, how are you? How's Elindra? And who do you think done the murders? The bad murders?
I'm good. She's fine. and I'm going to go with the old Scooby Doo formula here, which is it's the first
Old Man Withers?
It's the first NPC that you meet in the episode, so I'm pinning it on DeSaber.
Right, yeah. It seems likely. She's a living saint. She's super nice, and she's only just arrived.
You're
in the
laughing
city,
now.
weeks after the murders. But
And she
laughing
is
now.
also trying to redevelop the site of Father Lombardo's house into a successful hotel. So,
yeah, she often does wear a monster mask. So
exactly, like
maybe. I mean, to be fair, in Scooby-Doo, I don't think the person who they unmask at the end has often done murders. I don't think they've often burned people to death.
Yeah,
I mean, pretending to be a spooky ghost.
I think that's probably like the people that commission the kids' cartoons don't like it.
Not having the guts to give us a proper adult, mature Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, they're like insurance fraud, fine. Murder, not so much.
Burning. Not enough burnings in Scooby-Doo.
We do things dark and gritty here, so
yeah, and we'll die on the hill that there should. Stephen personally will die on the hill that there should be more burnings in Scooby-Doo. I've heard him say it.
Please don't give them the idea of doing a gritty live-action reboot of Scooby-Doo. They'll do it. They've done it to Riverdale. They've done it to Sabrina.
Netflix is on it as we speak.
The studio execs don't need me to ruin Scooby-Doo.
I've often said that about you. Let's bring on our final player. It's Mike. He plays Anton, Theurg of Prios, and priest turned sort of adventurer, but mainly he heals people a fair bit and he fucks up a lot.
I just sort of knock around with other people while they're adventuring.
Which, is 50% true of Mike. So, Mike, how are you? How's Anton? And who do you think done the bad murders?
I'm fine. Anton's also fine. Very relieved to not be doing much fighting. And I am going to say that the Duke did it in the dining room with a candlestick or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's like... I mean,
you can burn people with a candlestick, kind of.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah,
I don't really have any insects inside them, though.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. Leave that with me, and next week I won't have an answer.
Next week you will hope we've forgotten.
Yes.
So there we go. All right, lovely stuff. Let's start up again. So, as I say, you were in. I think we ended in Father Lombardo's house last time, right? And we ended with you having this note that you had found. Oh, incidentally, I should probably mention that we're not going to have a Sam/Ascarai tonight, by the way, folks. Sorry. But you had found this note. You had found the remains, like basically the building was kind of like lightly burned. Basically, the fire had been contained right to the room in which Lombardo had been killed. And I don't think... let me just double check my notes while Microsoft Office tells me that I haven't paid for my re-up of Excel. Let's take a look at those notes. Yeah, nothing else. It was basically just the like diary page type thing that you'd found. Now, it's been a week, gentle players, and this is barely legible. Would you like me to read out his note again, or do we all have the... Yeah, lots of nodding.
Could we have a readout, and could we also have the text copy pasted into our backstage Discord?
Of course you can. Of course you can. And in fact, you know what? We'll to save my beautiful voice, I've put it in our backstage. And I'll also put it in our private chat backstage. And why don't we have that read out by... Well, how about you, John, since you suggested having it put backstage? That is your reward and your punishment.
I did the recap, but sure. Yet another beautiful day under the radiant face of the life giver. Perhaps my fears are unfounded. A day like this, when the light of life shines strong and bright, should expose all shadows in Solar's pastures, even those made flesh and set into action. But I have seen nothing except the darkness I already know. We ventured a visit to the chapel again, both my friend and I disguised as wanderers, our faces hidden in deep hoods. We received a warm welcome from the congregation, who undoubtedly, and then there's an automatic cutoff, undoubtedly know us by name and position, but nevertheless play along with our charade. We are both delighted to see the warmth of the chapel spread through.
And then it ends. And also, I believe we had because Mike wasn't with us, but I believe I had Anton point out that Solar is an old name for Prios, very much prior to the Church of Prios. So we found this. We have shared this information out. Ascarai is being uncharacteristically non-verbal about it all. What next?
Well, I think that needs to go back to Saber.
Yeah. I mean, it would be good to find some more things rather than just take that back on its own. Here's the question, though. Is the church, or for that matter, anyone else, these days in the business of burning people for having an interest in the Temple of Many?
The answer is absolutely yes.
Okay.
Depending on the individual agent of the church and the place where it is.
Okay.
Ravenna is a very tolerant place as Ambrian standards go.
Sure.
But absolutely a particularly
Cool.
fervent Black Cloak would.
That I would not have brought that up. I would not have asked that question in character if we all knew the answer to it.
Sure.
Okay. So we have motive for Ombardo.
And we have a link to the witch.
Possibly.
This
Still
might be
want to
the
know
old
who this-
Ambrian gods.
Of course, they did mention an interest, didn't they?
That's assuming that the witch is the friend that he mentions.
I just assumed, well, if Solar is an older term for Prios, then maybe that's what the system meant by the older gods of Ambria.
Yeah. Either way, I'm getting concerned we're dallying here too long. One more search and then make a run for it.
Well, we've got the Duke's speech later today as well. What time is it now, Matt? It's
I think I said it's probably about 11.
okay. We've got a lot done this morning.
It's not late at all. Yeah, I mean, what have you done? You've gone to a few places and had a few conversations.
And had a lot of drinks.
Yeah, we head back to Saber, get some lunch, maybe a pint. Wait for all this to blow over.
Would you like? You were given a number of leads by Commander Berlioz. Would you like those refreshed?
I have my list, but
yeah. Well, why don't we take Stephen's list first, and I'll back up any missing bits.
Okay, so the leads that I have down from the conversations that we've had are Ombardo's house, which I think we've just ticked off. Armanda's house, that was the first Theurg who was filled with bugs in a sorcerous way. There were also reports of burglaries, unsolved, potentially related burglaries in the Vajvod embassy and in the Galilean counting house. Leandro, who is the Theurg that has stepped up to take Armanda's place has gone missing, and so tracking him down might be worth doing. And I think we all wanted to stick around for the Duke's speech, but that's, I guess, later today.
Yeah, that's hours away. So,
Yeah.
Because it is, it's summer and his speech is at sunset. So
Oh, right. Okay.
it's going to be, 10 o'clock or something. Like,
Yeah.
It's a good long while away. It's worth noting, just as a reminder, in case anyone's like, why do the burglaries matter? The reason they're linked is because Umbardo had reported a burglary the day before he was killed. So Berlia was like, maybe these are linked, maybe they're not. Have them.
That he reported a burglary, but nothing seemed to be missing, which is the same in these other two cases.
It's
It
not,
looks like
no.
oh, never mind.
So let me get the exact wording. Yeah, he reported nothing stolen, but a break-in is a better term than a burglary, right? Umbardo had reported a break-in. Yes, the trading house reported that nothing was stolen at their burglary, and the envoy Mulgara had reported that the office wing of the embassy had been robbed of valuables and the archives searched. So with that in mind, I'm not trying to dissuade you from going back to Disable, but
we're probably quite close to the embassy, right? That's on the Mound, which we're just on the outside wall of, assuming that we are able to walk in there.
Correct. Assuming you can get in, yeah. But like, good Lord, Cat. Basically, yes, yeah, there is a gate, and you have to like negotiate your way past the gate to get into the Mound, but maybe that's not impossible.
We just watched the Twilight Friars go through, but that gate, but we are not nearly as important as them.
No, but I mean, Anton has been through there before. Admittedly, he had a mission to give something to the Duke, but maybe if you want to, I don't know.
Eligible suggested to the others that we can probably do quite a good passing impression of some tourists right now. And that's like, tourists go there, right?
Definitely not.
No? Okay. I didn't know if
it's like a secure compound where the rich live in the city. So
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
you can only look at that from a long way away.
Well, I don't think they want random people wandering around there. So no, and also I'm not entirely sure there are tourists in Ambria in general.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like, generally speaking, if you want to be let into a restricted area, probably the best way to do it is to convince someone within the restricted area that they want to speak to you or see you, or in whatever way. So I suppose
I don't want to go into any place where the flipping commander of all Black Cloaks just went in, if I'm honest with you.
Well, they're not likely to be at the embassy, though.
I think just getting through that gate is the difficult part. We need an extremely good story, and I don't have one right now.
Do we recall from our meeting with the Watch whether it's the burglaries that have is it just the murders which the Watch are not investigating, or the burglaries as well?
He basically said have a go. Like he has other priority. I think his exact kind of wording was that he has other priorities at the moment. There's the festivities, the speech, the murders, which he can't even look at. But like, there's a lot bubbling over in the city, and the burglaries didn't seem like two of them. Nothing was taken, so they immediately go down the line, and the other one was he just hasn't gotten around to it yet, essentially. What was the actual timeline of that? Let me double check the timeline.
It said that it was all in the last month, but
Yeah.
I don't think they
Literally, he hasn't got to the embassy yet because the embassy was yesterday. So that's why it hasn't been fully investigated yet. And yeah, he basically said have at them. So yeah, maybe you could just say we're investigating the burglary. Can we speak to the ambassador?
Could be worth a try.
I mean, we don't.
It is
look
true.
It is true. We don't look much like City Guard, though.
Well, we are close to this this mound, but we don't seem to have an easy means of access. However, there are other sites that we can investigate within Ravenna, and we've visited 2 of the 3 places where people were murdered. Does it make sense to make our way to the 3rd?
I think so.
Which would
think-
be
That would be
Amanda's
Amanda's house. Yeah.
Which, as first Theurg, might probably be on the mound.
And more to the point, I don't think we know where it is. We found out in the restaurant about the address of this place, but I wasn't able to ask about Amanda's house as well.
There are a couple of liturgs at the temple that we have the names of that we could make inquiries with. That could be an avenue for us.
Didn't the guard commander said they were good people? Might be worth a shot.
Yeah. Maybe we'll send in Anton for that one.
Yeah, I think it's my turn to lurk outside.
Yeah, I think all of us just marching back into the Sun Temple and taking up space, the kind of thing that is going to draw attention that I don't think we want to draw.
I'm going to also ask about the latest Theurg as well.
Leandro.
When they were seen, yeah.
That sounds like a plan.
Okay. So what are we doing? We've talked about the mound. We've talked about the going back to the Sun Temple.
I think we're going to go to
time,
the
I think.
Yeah, I think we're going to the Sun Temple, but I think in the interests of not drawing a bunch of attention to ourselves, it will probably just be Anton that goes in.
Okay. Well, you make your way through the streets of Ravenna, which are still packed for the festivities. You make your way past the gates to the mound, now a little bit calmer now that the Whipper Prios have moved through it. You make your way all the way back down to... I don't know why I have changed away from my map, which I had. You make your way all the way back round to... the Oval Plaza, which is where the Sun Temple is, and Tom heads in. You can indeed, it's much the same as it was before. There are quite a few people there talking to various Theurgs, various novices, and you can see the 2 liturgs, the Ambrian and the unusual barbarian, stood kind of supervising everyone. They are interacting with people, but they're also kind of like mingling and moving around, clearly kind of overseeing the activities of the temple today.
Yeah, I think I will just approach both of them. Am I right in saying that one of them, Tarun, I want to say, is a member of the Vajvod clan, Matt? Have I imagined that?
I can't remember if I did say which clan he was, but I have no problem with it being Vajvod in case I didn't.
Okay, I have that as a note.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something for us to remember, potentially as a link to some other things that are going on. Yeah, I'll just go up to whoever looks least busy at that moment in time and ask if I could have a minute of their time while doing the Sun Temple greeting, of course. Sun Church
Well,
greeting.
it is Tarun, the barbarian individual who you find. He turns to you as you come closer. He's quite relatively tall, somewhat somewhat powerfully built. Definitely has like the bearing of a warrior of the clans. As you come closer, he returns the sun sign to you and kind of bows slightly and says, "Father, I do not recognize you, but you are welcome in this sun temple. How can I help you?"
Thank you for your welcome. It's been a very warm welcome since I've arrived in this town, and yeah, it is fair that you do not recognize me because I am new to this area, doing some work on behalf of a senior member of our church. But I fear that I have sort of come at a bad time for this town because this church, because there have been some tumultuous events, and I'm doing some investigations into what is going on as part of my duties, and was recommended to speak to you actually by the watch captain, who suggested that you may be able to help tie a few things together for me. And if it's okay with you, I would just like a moment of your time just to ask a few questions.
Of course. How peculiar, though. Commander Berlioz?
Correct, yeah.
Hiring outside agents from the watch?
No, not hiring. No, the investigating that I'm doing does not come from the watch, but I did speak to Berlioz, who recommended that I approach yourself and your colleague, as you represent very excellent, helpful members of our church.
Well, he sort of tugs on his long brown mustaches that are kind of braided down the side of his face and says, "Well, peculiar or not, I am at your service, Father. How may the Sun Temple help you in your investigation?"
I apologize if this may be a sensitive matter, but it does unfortunately concern Armanda and the unfortunate death that occurred 2 weeks ago. And I, as part of my investigations, I'm curious as to whether a thorough investigation of her residence has taken place. I believe that was where she was found dead, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. I don't know too many of the specifics. And I'm afraid I don't know what level of investigation has happened with her residence. It is on the Mound, as I'm sure you already know, as all the high theurgs have a dwelling up there. I believe today they are carrying out an inventory of her possessions for passing on, presumably to next of kin. Perhaps some will go to auction for the temple.
The church is carrying out that task. Do you say, or?
Yes, several of our novices will be up there carrying it out. I didn't arrange it myself. Sandro did, the liturg Sandro, but...
Would it be possible for me to join along for that? I promise not to get in anyone's way, and I maybe even be able to offer some assistance.
I don't see why not. But I do not wish to go behind the senior liturg's back on this. One moment.
I understand.
He calls over Sandro, who's a much older man, a little small, a little kind of slightly shriveled with age. And he comes over. He's got quite sparse white hair and a long white beard, but he's got quite kind of like piercing blue eyes that are still twinkling with a sense of youth and energy. Tarun kind of explains the situation to him, and Sandro goes, Is this business personal, or are you acting on behalf of someone else, Father
Anton? I am acting on behalf of someone else. Unfortunately, I'm not able to say who I am acting on behalf of at this moment in time.
and to stress this, Commander Berlioz has no problem with you taking a look at this.
No, it's not going to be a problem.
And were I to send a novice to check in with him, he would say so.
Can I just check at this point? What did Commander Berlioz say about this? Was he?
I'm pretty sure he said not to tell anyone you were working for him.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it was kind of fill your boots with this, but just leave us out of this.
Okay.
There were strong vibes if this conversation never happened, for sure.
I don't think he very explicitly said it, but that was definitely the over. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you and him, Mike, last week. Do you want to retcon that you've said that?
Yeah, I'll retcon that I said that. I mean, I think what I said to the first liturg was that we aren't doing this on behalf of Berlioz, right? It's basically said it's not on behalf of Berlioz, but I also I won't I will sort of
that's
swerve
fine. That's
that.
fine. Let's rewind that a little bit and just focus on him. You can't tell us who your employer is.
They have asked for privacy, but I would not be doing this if the person asking for this was not of some importance to our cause.
Well, I suppose there's no harm in you taking a look at the scene. As far as I'm aware, the watch didn't seem to be there for long. It's just being cleared out now. I see no particular harm in it, especially if something you turn up will shine some light on the first Theurg. She struggled with a dark past. She was always a servant of Prios, but war and violence left their mark on her. These past deeds are presumably also the reason why she is now kneeling by Prios' side. The dark forces she had once fought finally caught up with her. Perhaps took their revenge. Very well, Father. I will send a message. I will send a message to... there is a lady there, a former chambermaid, called Giral. I will send a message to her, and I will send a message to the guards at the Mound gate. But be sure that you go about your business today, please.
Of course, and please forgive my intrusion, and I thank you kindly for your assistance.
Oh, well, I'm glad you came and asked us rather than found another way about it. So, yes. And if you do find anything, please do let us know.
Of course, it seems important to get to the bottom of what has happened here. Sad news indeed. Right, I shall be off, and thank you for your time.
No, of course. And Prius, watch over you, Father.
And you. I will make my leave and return to the rest of the group, and I'll say that I think I have a way in. We can try to push our luck and all get access, but I did not feel like I wanted to draw the attention of them by explaining that this is a group investigating comprised of members who aren't part of the Sun Church. And also, I did not ask about Leandro specifically because I thought I would be pushing my luck there as well.
Okay.
There was some degree of suspicion in their tone, which is understandable given that I am a stranger and an outsider. When we perhaps developed a bit more of a rapport, then it might be possible to broach that.
But they gave you some kind of pass?
Yes. the housekeeper, Jarell, will be told that I am coming, and the guards at the Mound gate will be informed as well.
So we go to the Mound gate and you tell the guards that we're with you.
That is exactly what I was thinking. My humble assistant.
I dream of the day when I can just tell people who I'm doing work for again.
It wasn't so bad until we arrived at this town.
Oh, it's been bad for months. Well, maybe we can swing by the Ambassadori complex on the way out. I don't think anyone's going to be following us once we're in there, fingers crossed.
No, I mean, Mike, you've been on the Mound, and it's it's fancy in there, and there's lots of like very high-powered places and people in there, but it's not like people are watching you. Where you know what I mean? Like there are guards, but they're keeping an eye out for people doing weird stuff, not people just walking around and going up to a building and saying, "Can we come in?" or whatever. So yeah.
So like once we're through that gate, we're I imagine we're not going to stroll straight into the palace or anything, but like hopefully
the palace has another gate.
Sure.
But yeah. It's absolutely like once you're in. It's just getting in without living there or having a rationale is difficult.
Is the Ghanaian counting house also on the Mound?
I will double check my map, but I think very much no.
Okay.
No, you don't know where it is. And I've also just told you it's not on the Mound. But yeah.
Do we think it's the sort of thing that's likely to be on the Mound?
Well, a commercial business, probably not.
Probably not. Okay.
No. I mean, Anton has been back and forth in there. The things you saw when you were in there, Anton, was you saw a smaller, older-looking Sun Temple. You saw the Ordo Magica Tower, and you saw the Vajrod Embassy, which seemed quite a sprawling, or modestly sprawling set of buildings that also had its own tower. And then further on is like another set of walls. And beyond that, the palace. I mean, in fact, why don't we have a little bit more clarity with the old map? There we go. So as you can see, the Mound is kind of like, there's quite a few buildings in there, including those I've just mentioned. And then there's another set of walls and another gate. And then beyond that is the palace. That's the most... And remember our skewed cardinal directions, the most easterly point of Ravenna. Sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah. See if we can break in with permission.
There's something contradictory there, and I can't quite put my finger on it. So, with that in mind, the five of you, six of you, I should say, with Revelia, walk up to the Mound gates. Are you leaving any time? Are you like pausing and grabbing maybe some food from a stall or something just to give time for the messenger to get there? Seems reasonable, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do that.
Yeah.
I think as well, I might float this idea. If we're going to be here for some time, and if we're going to be conducting investigations for some time, we may need to find other ways to access this part of town. And I'm certain that there are other ways into this form of time. I don't, this part of town, I don't just mean with permission. I mean, there must be ways that the criminal class, should we say, Ravenna, can get into this place, and it would be good to know.
You mean as part of the investigation, we should be trying to understand how burglars made it in?
Yeah, but also knowing that gives us access in and out to areas that people might not want us to access as well.
I think we're on the same page, Father.
So, having delayed a bit and maybe grabbed some street meet. You head your way to the Mound gate, and it's Anton taking the lead, right? Because if you're the one with the thumbs up to go through here.
Yeah, so I'll approach the guards, and I think first actually I might observe how other people seem to come and go through the gates, and sort of what line of questioning there is from the guards. If I can sort of loiter nearby and hear people coming and going, and
I mean,
see
you
how
could
that
do,
works.
but you yourself have done this before.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, in that case, I will have a think.
Yeah. I mean, you just walked up and said, "I've got business," and they asked you what it was, and they asked for you to be actually you're with Umbardo, right? I think. Oh
Yeah.
no, Umbardo came out to you. You went up. You said you had business. You showed like the seal. They sent someone in, and then Umbardo came and got you. That was it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will go up to the gate with the rest of the group, and I
Okay.
will say that I have business at Amanda's house.
All right, Father. Let me. What's the name?
Father Anton, I believe that a note has been sent by.
You're quick. Aye, the temple sent your name not 5 minutes ago. All right. Are these your companions?
Yes, they're my assistants. Yes.
All right. In you go then, Father, and we'll let us know when you come out. Speak to one of us, so we can make sure that you're accounted for.
Sounds reasonable.
Afternoon, Father. He indicates for someone on top of the walls, and the gates open.
Great.
Go in.
We are in.
The mound is so named because it is, as you might expect, a rise that gently rolls up from the flatter part of Ravenna. That means that when you actually enter the city, you can see that the Order Magica Tower and the glittering top of the older Sun Temple, and you can also definitely see the palace of Duke Inadar behind it. But now that you are on the slope itself, obviously they're all a lot closer. And as you enter into the mound, you can see a number of people walking around. Mostly they look official or wealthy or important in one way or another. And it starts with a large kind of open yard area, which isn't very populated and isn't very sort of fancy, and a number of streets spread off from it, 4 of them. One of them seems to be short and leads directly to an older Sun Temple, and the other, if you recall correctly, Father Anton leads to like a sort of slightly open space where the Ordo Magica Tower and the Vajvod Embassy are kind of over on the left. And let's say as well that we didn't roleplay it, but Liturg Sondro told you where the High Priest's residence is, and told you it's kind of basically gave you directions to kind of go past the Sun Temple and the embassy, and you will keep going and round, and you will find yourself, and it'll be clear because people are gathering possessions and such things on the outside of it, so you'll be able to see it pretty clearly. I take it we're following those instructions. Okay. Well, on the way, as I say, you pass the Sun Temple. It certainly looks a bit older as these things get in Ambria, but it looks like it was maybe founded relatively early in Ambria's existence, so it might be 20 or so years old now. And it looks not decrepit, but certainly like it was something built in that first flush of colonization that was not particularly maybe built to last, at least at the beginning, and it's very obvious why a larger, more newer Sun Temple has been built in the main part of the city. You also pass the Vajrod Embassy, which, as I say, is a real kind of like scatter of buildings. There's a good 5 or 6 buildings in there, including one that's quite tall. It almost matches the Order Magica's tower for height. The entire thing is ringed in a wooden fence that comes up just over your heads. And you can basically see through the inside by a couple of gateposts that you pass along the way. Most of the buildings in there, apart from the tower, seem to be pretty low. There's a big main one, which is kind of Ambrian style build, and a lot of the others are sort of wood logs with kind of sod roofs, built in a more Vajvod style. And the entire thing is guarded with no few number of hefty Vajvod warriors who are clasping their renowned long axes and garbed in fairly hefty armor that's occasionally painted in stripes and circles of blue and purple. Can I have a cunning roll, please, from all of you? And I will give Alindra and Steo a +3 on it each. So we've got success from Steo, success from Alindra. How about Arundar? No. Well, that feels quite appropriate. Steo and Alindra, you both note that that looks like a hell of a place to break in.
As in, it's very well guarded.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe it wasn't yesterday. Maybe this is why it's well guarded. But
yeah,
you wouldn't want to be given the task of breaking in there.
That's no small target in there.
I will also happily, and this is something that doesn't need a cunning roll, a clanfolk embassy that has this many guards that are allowed to carry their weapons. Extremely unusual in an Ambrian city.
Yeah, I would imagine that in most Ambrian cities, the embassy, if it exists at all, is going to be.
He's going to be a guy.
Yeah, a guy in a little corner office somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Thistlehold doesn't really have any such thing as an embassy. It's got like ODAV representatives and Zarek representatives who you're sure probably live somewhere near night pitches and so they can talk to him easily and stuff. And maybe some of the clans have some representatives in Inderos, but they'll probably just be given an apartment in the with other ambassadors.
I get the sense in Thistlehold that if the clans have something to say, they'll just come and knock on the north gate.
Yeah,
right?
they'll just send a caravan from Tharaban or whoever. Yeah. Whereas here, yeah, I mean, having an embassy at all is sort of an inherent acknowledgement of sovereignty. But probably none of you except Anton really clock like the geopolitics of like Symbaroum to that kind of level. It's certainly unusual.
I wonder if there were fewer guards before the robbery, or maybe fewer guards before that little caper in Carvosti.
Maybe, but they've still got a town within a town, a fortress within a fortress.
It's quite intimidating. It almost puts you off from investigating.
It certainly put me off from trying to burgle the place.
We'll need a silver tongue to get in there, but let's see if we can get into the Theurg's place. I'd say that'll be a lot easier.
Well, you pass the embassy and you turn a kind of corner. And among the other residences and buildings you can see, all of which look very, very nice. There is one of the Mound's most beautiful residences you've seen so far, a kind of 2-story sort of, it's basically what we would think of these days as a kind of mini mansion type building, right? With a few kind of like outhouses, like a small stable and things like that, but generally just a very large, nice residence. In front of it, there is an inventory taking place. So a lot of furnishings, a lot of possessions are being brought out and kind of laid next to each other, kind of on the grass, with various smaller possessions being like sort of catalogued. There were a couple of novices there who seemed to be kind of scribing it all, and they seem to be at least being partially guided in it by quite an elegant looking tall lady in a fairly expensive looking dress, who's kind of walking between them and commenting on things, and occasionally kind of like guiding the laborers who are carrying stuff out, who are doing it fairly respectfully and carefully already, but she's kind of making sure, you know.
Well, Anton, up to you to swing your weight around on this one.
Okay. So I guess we're trying to make our way inside, and if we need to sort of get permission, I guess we're looking for a Jarell, if I've got the name right there, who has the note. So
Jarell.
Sorry.
A-L. Yeah.
So I'll try and make myself known, and try and find Jarell and explain who I am and what I'd like to do.
I mean, they said she was a chambermaid and guiding the thing. It seems like it's probably the lady there guiding.
Yeah. Okay. So I will go up and ask Jarell, is it?
Father? Yes, I am Jarell.
You may have had a note from the Sun Temple.
Of course, they sent it. Not, of course, Father Anton. You are here with quite a varied set of companions. Are you investigating the first Theurg's death?
Yes, I would like to learn a little bit more about it. And may I start with asking you some questions? We do not want to intrude. The questions, are purely to help our understanding. And we appreciate that some of the feelings around this may still be quite uncomfortable.
Yes, of course.
So, as I understand it, I believe that Amanda died 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Would it be possible for you to show us where that happened and where she was, how she was found?
I can certainly do so. There's not a lot to see now. Come inside.
Thank you.
She kind of walks through. The laborers kind of like look at you curiously as you all kind of trump past. You walk down a corridor, up a slightly winding set of stairs onto a longer landing, where she walks along and kind of gestures at a doorway to an empty room, and says, "It was in there. Her bedchamber. It's all cleared now, I'm afraid, and cleared and cleaned. I on the night I woke to terrible screams, not screams, howls of pain, coming from the mistress's bedchamber. I rushed to the room, but the door was bolted, and it was never bolted from the inside. The howls continued, and then I heard something else as well. A deep, coarse voice, a chuckle, and then what sounded like a short hymn sung in barbarian tongue. Other servants came to help. We got the door open. The screams had long since stopped. There was an awful stench inside, and the body was, well, it was a sight to see, Father, I'm sure.
I have heard rumors about the body. very unpleasant matter.
Yes.
I gather that Armanda had, well, maybe there were some people who were not so fond of her company. Would that be fair to say?
Oh, Lady Armanda was as pious as one can be. She loved Prios more than anything, and was zealous about making the most of his gifts, something she demanded from us as well. It was important, she said, to take pleasure in life, but to also show gratitude while doing so. Can you all make a vigilant test? Anyone who succeeds, she just Anton. She spoke that with the air of like. Sometimes people say things and it feels like they've practiced them, and that's how that sounded. And you wonder if you tried to coax her a little, whether you might get a different kind of opinion out of her.
Yeah. I understand that your feelings around this are maybe complex, but I think that it's important that I stress, for the purposes of this investigation, that we do learn more about how Amanda was viewed within this town and what acquaintances she had and what trouble she was or wasn't in.
When you kind of start saying this, Giral looks a little bit like she's in trouble. And then by the end of it, she looks quite a bit more understanding about where you're coming from. Could you make me? I think that was absolutely an excellent thing. I think you absolutely nailed how you would perhaps approach this. So I'm going to ask you to make a persuasive roll, which I know we hate, but I'm literally going to give you +5 because I think you nailed that.
Hey,
So,
I make it.
nice. She nods and kind of blows her nose. Well, the mistress may have had a less charming side. She could be cruel, ruthless, even greedy at times, but only because she knew better than anybody how the gifts of Prios must be managed and enjoyed. That's what she said. In recent times, she had been unusually cheerful, humorous even, especially during the week leading up to. She didn't say why, but she often insinuated that her future and that of her staff as well was looking very bright indeed, that she had won a great victory for the lawgiver, and that he would surely grace her with his favour. But Father Anton, I'm sorry, she was not the kind of person to confide in someone in my position, and I simply don't know any more than that.
I will sort of warmly just touch her shoulder as if to sort of reassure her that it was okay to share what she shared. I understand. I believe, if the rumors are true, that she had a difficult relationship with some of the barbarian people. Is that something you know to be true as well?
Yes. I've heard rumors of her past involvement with the barbarian clans, and all I can say is that she did not suffer any barbarian to be employed or utilized, or their services to be involved anywhere near her. And it was only upon her first Leandro's first act as the high priest was to elevate Tarun into the position of liturg, something which Armanda had refused to do for a very long time. She was of the opinion that there was something inherently unholy about the barbarians and their way of life. And she did not make any secret of making this known to those around her. In many ways, it was the biggest challenge for her here in Ravenna, where the folk of this town are perhaps more forgiving of barbarian ways than many others in Ambria are.
I fear that I am straying from my original line of thought here, but seeing as you mentioned Father Leandro there, I have no knowledge of these matters, but I would have understood that when the title of First Theurg passed from one to another, that the staff may also follow suit. Is that the case, or?
Yes, it may well be. I do not know what my future holds. Leandro has always been a very kind man to me, and to everyone who I know of. There are certainly less tensions between him and Duke Inadar than there are Armanda, the mistress. I do not know what will come to pass, but I have heard tell that Leandro has not even been seen in public for days now. So perhaps he's in seclusion.
On the Mounds? Does he live here?
No, he makes his dwelling at the Sun Temple, I believe, the main one. But I'm assuming all is well with his raise. He will be dwelling here.
Interesting.
But I haven't seen him in days, perhaps longer.
Thank you. I think at this point, Anton would like to sort of just have a quick look around the room, check out ways into the room, windows, other doors, check out the bolt on the door as well, presume that that's still there. Yeah, any, like, commence sleuthing.
Did the rest of us come up? Were we in earshot of that conversation?
Yeah, you were.
Jimmy
Yeah.
Hawking. So I will turn to her and say, you mentioned tensions between Armanda and Duke Inadar?
Yes, they argued often. She certainly mentioned it. I mean, literally, Anton has seen them arguing.
Okay. On theological matters?
I don't know, Sonite.
Thank you.
The effects from this room, have they been catalogued? Can we take a look over them once we've finished the examination here?
Yes, certainly. It was the first room to be cleared and catalogued. The novices outside will have a list and should be able to present most of the items to you.
And one other thing, the other people who we've been speaking to on this matter say that when first they arrived here, there were footprints, a pair of footprints.
Yes.
Were they the assailant, or?
I don't know. I don't know.
But the rest of the house, there were no other footprints. These were not mud tracks dragged through. They were only in the room?
Yes. The room was sealed, sir.
Uncanny. What a disturbing manner.
Everyone. Okay. Carry on.
Sorry, go on.
No, go.
So, would you point out where the footprints were in the room?
She walks into the room. This is a completely empty room. and she walks to kind of a point part way, like 2/3 towards the window from the door where you are, and I think here, sir.
Thank you.
But there is nothing. The entire thing has been scrubbed clean.
Mhm.
There is no furniture, nothing like that. You mentioned your sleuthing, Anton. It is it's not a small room, but neither is it a huge one. It is, as I say, empty of all furnishings and any point of interest. There is a window which is has shutters on it. The shutters have a bolt on them that looks secure, but is currently open and airing out. The door definitely did have a bolt on it, but the bolt has kind of like the place where the bolt was sealed on has splintering around the edges. And the bolt itself is gone. Presumably because it was battered or kicked. She said that servants kind of forced their way in. But presumably from that. Yeah.
The scene, as it was described to us, I'm saying this to the others really, but it was described that there were footprints on the rug, and only the rug. So presumably there was a rug, which is presumably outside.
After the lady had made her statement there, Steve's going to kind of turn his attention away, but he's kind of going to wheel around quite subtly and give Anton a kind of a look of what was with that delivery. It sounded a bit...
I don't think anyone knows what you mean, Chris.
I want to go on the record and say I enjoyed it.
Steo refuses to elaborate.
Not in front of the woman who I'm concerned might be keeping something from us, no.
Aaron, with zero idea of how he would actually look for something like this, is going to start knocking on the surrounding floor for trapdoors.
Sure, for secret doors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
That's where mysterious footprints come from.
Sure, make a vigilant roll.
Fail.
Okay, you have no idea.
I mean, if we're making vigilant rolls, this sounds like an excellent time for me to fail a witch sight roll.
Go for it.
All right, let's see. Vigilant against discreet. I guess that's just no modifier for a place.
Nope.
By Jove, I've actually passed one.
Good Lord. We'll take your point of corruption or whatever it is.
I'll gladly do so.
You don't receive any kind of like overwhelming or incredibly clear insights, but you do briefly get a kind of flash of a figure writhing in pain on a bed where there now is none, and a kind of shadowed figure. You know what? Actually, let me... I might be able to make that description a bit more interesting if I just take a look at something here. If I can do that. Can I do that? Of course I can do that. A figure standing at the end of the bed with a kaleidoscopic, glossy green shadow, like sunlit foliage with waxy leaves.
Great. I will not explain this to the other people because how do you... Yeah, no. It just says nothing.
Aaron's right. Let's take a look at that rug.
Okay.
It might also be worthwhile seeing if there's any correspondence that exists. If we would be permitted to have a look at it as well.
Oh, all the correspondence is held by the temple, Father.
Understood. Thank you.
She leads you. Are we done in the room? She leads you outside and points to where the novices are cataloging stuff and has a word with them, and they show you everything. And in the interests of us not venturing into a really chicken in the cage territory here, they show you everything in the room. It seems to have been quite a Spartan layout in the room. There is a bed, there was a writing desk and a chair. There were several copies of the Lawgiver, which I believe is the name of the primary kind of holy book of the Church of Prios. A number of Prios-oriented kind of symbols and decorations around the place. Some armor and some and weapons, all of which seems, very good quality, but nothing remarkable. There is a rug, which was a kind of like slightly aged orange color. They point towards it. There are no footprints on it, and assuming someone will say, but there were footprints on it, they will explain that it has, of course, been cleaned. But Giral will happily confirm that there were muddy footprints.
She will point at part of the rug and say that's where they were.
Yeah.
Or
that's kind of what I wanted confirmation of. So they were muddy footprints.
They were muddy footprints, yes.
Are the streets of Ravenna muddy? Are they cobbled? Or
they are cobbled, but there are muddy. At this time of year, the mud is certainly a bit rarer. But actually, on the mound, there's quite a lot of soil and mud, because it has like open, more greenish or at least soil spaces between a lot of the dwellings. So yes. And in fact, I'll go ahead and say that the streets of the mound are actually not cobbled. They are packed dirt in an odd... You'd expect it to be fancier, but it's actually had less... It looks like it's had less money spent on just the layout of it than the city itself.
But it's summertime, right? So like describing it as mud is probably a stretch.
I mean, it is right now, but I mean, 2 weeks ago, there could have been rains. There could have been... Yeah.
I will ask Giral whether the footprints were were they boots?
I really don't think someone without forensic knowledge.
I mean, as opposed to like when we're talking about footprints, we're talking about some form of footwear, not bare footprints.
I honestly don't see how anyone could tell that on a rug, like with or without forensic experience.
Okay.
I will. Aaron, Askray, can I borrow you for just a moment?
Of course.
Oh, be right back, Anton. Give me a second. How big's the house, and is it kind of detached? Is it right the way around?
It is detached. As I've already described it, like a mini mansion. It's like multiple floors, fair size. Yes.
Let's do a quick loop and see if we can find any evidence of anomalous footprints leading up to the location. Yeah.
Only you had someone with you whose stats we have, who's good at looking for these things.
Yeah, well, I'd love to use him, but I've included him in the meta text, but it's just going to be our garbage vigilant, I think.
Sure, we'll go ahead and make those garbage vigilant rolls.
Oh dear.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, no.
Okay.
That's why I pulled a blinder.
You don't find anything. I mean, I would also note it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Finding any kind of trace of anything 2 weeks later is going to be difficult. But for what it's worth, you don't find anything.
Look, maybe if the weather had been wetter, they would have survived, but nothing. No idea how he got in. Only a rough idea who he is. I'll say idea. It's a conspiracy theory. Come on, let's get back.
Can I sanity check a thing with the other players? Is my memory of the campaign correct that Alindra has not really talked about about Witchsight before, except that weird vision in the tannery.
The weird vision in the tannery and Master Furia talking to you about it in front of all of
In
us.
front of them.
Okay, right. So okay.
I think
we don't-
we know you. At the time, it came across more like prophetic visions,
Yeah.
Okay.
but
I don't-
you
I don't
haven't gone
think-
into details.
Spooky things.
I don't think we have to have any awkward conversations. I think if you kind of and also, I mean, witch sight is rare, certainly, but it's not unusual for Templars to have mystical powers. They're usually just not witchcraft ones.
Yeah. Okay. So when we have a quiet moment away from Jirel, I will say, I know it sounds strange. I got a sense of the person that was in the room that committed the murder. I think if we met them, I would be able to identify them. I can't describe them, but I could tell you if I saw them. So we did get something.
Wow.
Well, I don't understand it, but I'll take any advantage I can get.
Well, that's good.
It's a gift from Prios that I don't fully understand, but I'm grateful for.
Maybe he wants us to solve this as much as we do.
Right, well, in the absence of any paperwork, I think we lucked out in the last place. I don't know what else we can expect to get here. I'm still concerned that the housekeeper's recollection of the evening, I don't know. I'm just an old man.
I think I was fairly convinced of her honesty, but I may be wrong.
Well, that's good enough for me. I am, after all, just your assistant.
Just so I know we're not building off anything incorrect, is there anything you think is actually conflicting?
No, not conflicting. Just it sounded like maybe it was the first time she had also realized that the footprints were there at the same time, and that's why she was so surprised. But there was also Steo has got it in his head that she was not.
Why would what surprise?
There was an element of surprise in her delivery.
Then it was not meant to be there.
I think it was more taken aback that we were asking her about some random footprints that weren't there anymore.
That she was taken aback that you maybe knew about them or were at. Yeah.
It's our job to know.
It's literally
it isn't.
not.
We've made it our job to know. I think everything that we've heard points towards when you eliminate all the improbable options, all that you're left with is the impossible. And I think that that's what we're dealing with here. This was magic. Someone got in and out of a sealed room, murdered her in an incredibly horrific way that is not available to people who aren't sorcerers of some description. We're looking for a witch or a sorcerer or a green weaver.
I think that's what we need to know next is a bit more about the method of murder in this case, because it seems uncommon, and maybe there's been instances of it before, or somebody knows someone who's done this before, perhaps where they've learned it, who they are. That would be my thinking around where we go next with this particular lead.
Well, while we're here, we can probably get into the Ordo Tower. They love talking about stuff. If anyone knows about strange and forbidden magics, it'll probably be at the Strange and Forbidden Magic shop.
Would we be able to find someone who would just talk to us, though?
Worth a shot. Do you think? Well, I mean, we're owed some favors from the Thistleholds, Ordo, but
The question is,
maybe we finally get an opportunity to use the heroes of the sinkhole in our favor.
I think we're here, and nobody's stopping us being here, and that sounds less risky than approaching the Vashvad embassy, which is the other thing that we meant to do here. So why not?
Sorry, just before we go on this particular venture, what was the reasoning behind talking to the Order Magica again?
To try to see if we could gain some more insight and understanding into wacky barbarian sorcerer's powers that might have enabled and contributed towards this murder.
Okay,
Basically.
the method of murder, like the method of murder specifically, you literally know it. It's been cast on one of you. It just didn't kill you.
Yeah. It's the sore tummy spell, or boils, or whatever it's called.
It's called larvae boil,
Larvae boil, yeah.
and it just fills your body with writhing, devouring grubs.
TMI. Please stop.
Okay, so the party knows that this is a thing and has seen it before.
Mm-hmm. I think it was it on Anton, maybe?
The lizard spell was on Anton. I think the larvae
the
boil was
regrettable lizard.
maybe on Haskarai?
Steo.
Maybe
And
on
in any case, you are aware that this is a spell that can be cast.
I think my curiosity, which might help, is asking the Ordo how someone could get into a locked room without any trace.
Yeah, that's the other part of this, is that there's some kind of crazy teleportation going on.
Is it, thinking back to that, we don't know that the shutters were closed and bolted.
That's what we were told.
It's what you were told by Berlio and Rao, essentially.
Okay.
I don't think the Ordo Magica would, if they did know, randomly give out that information to 6 people who walked up to the front door. They do, even in Thistlehold, even with a few favors and a few contacts, they do tend to be awfully selective about their appointments.
The conversations do tend to be about whether they can find out anything interesting on you.
And perhaps
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
Fair enough.
I wonder if there's an amount that we should keep that we're investigating to quite a select group.
Well, let's at least speak to the Vajvad guards and see if they'll let us.
I think that's one for you, Steo. But yes, I can see why having the Ordo Magica crawling all over this might not be a great idea.
Just to be clear, I didn't want to completely dissuade you from the notion. I just wanted you to not go and ask a question you already had the answer to, if you see what I mean. So.
No, it's Aaron's dissuaded me.
Fair enough. Are we bidding the chambermaid goodbye then and heading around the corner to the Vajvad embassy?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. You do so. Are we still maintaining the illusion, Michael, that Anton is in charge?
No, at this point, I don't think so, because we're in this area now, and I don't think we're going to get particularly questioned.
Fair enough.
So I'm going to pass the reins over to our companion Steo.
I think we're doing that thing where we're generally all trying to have that air of that we're supposed to be here.
about right. No one's particularly looking at you. You know, there aren't too many passers-by anyway. But yeah, the guards kind of look at you fairly evenly as you approach as a group, and it sounds like Anton is letting Steo try out his latest language skills.
Yeah, Steo will approach them and greet them and say, "We're doing a little bit of investigation. We understand there was an attempted burglary here. Would anyone be interested in talking to us about it?"
The word you used, it means hunting, not investigation.
Apologies. What is the right? Oh, investigation. Investigate. Thank you.
It is rare to see an Ambrian even trying. There was a robbery. What are you to do with this?
We think it may be connected to the burnings, the witch, the theurge.
One of them looks at the other. The other one says, "You did mention you were curious about that? All right, get the princess." The other one walks inside the embassy, or the embassy grounds. Where did you learn Vajvad?
Sorry, someone asked me that?
Yeah, where do you learn Vajvad?
On the road to Karvosti, I had a month or so.
Vajvad, a long way from Karvosti.
Many people travel to Karvosti.
You have your accent. It's Odav. You learn off an Odav.
I think so. Many Odav in that area. Good people. Good drinkers.
I like Odav. A lot better than I like Carrot. Don't learn off a Carrot. If they teach you, they have to stab you afterwards. You think there's something you're not getting about that.
I think I got the geopolitical bit of it anyway. I don't have any kind of stuff I want to. Oh, maybe one last little needle for a little bit of extra information. The witch who was burned, were they not Carrot?
They were Carrot.
They seem to
They
have
were
been good people.
I heard of them. He was spoken of well.
That's what we heard. Damn shame. Awful way to die.
The priest as well. Liked the priest. That was bad. If I find who did it, my axe will get wet.
Good fortune to you. The fancy cavalcade with the palanquin, the cart that came in earlier with the masked man and the horse. Did they go up to the big?
They didn't come past here. They didn't come past here. They might have done. Sounds like someone would go see the Duke.
Yeah, politics.
After another minute or so, the other guard returns, and she returns alongside quite a youngish looking, quite slight woman, wearing kind of a very vivid blue tunic, and with some kind of clan folk jewelry as well. She has kind of long, honey-colored hair, and is really quite striking. She stands forward and kind of looks around at you with a very direct appraisal of you all, and says, in Ambrian, very good Ambrian, "I am Mulgara. I am the ambassador, or what other title the Duke wishes to give me. Come in."
Thank you.
She walks you through, and the kind of two guards on either side kind of turn and fall in behind you, just marching alongside you. And as you walk past, you can see that there are another 4 guards on the inside of the gate, literally stood out of view right on the inside of the gate, to kind of like move round to take their place. You walk into the compound. As I said, it is an enclosed plot of land. There are a number of buildings here. The main villa, the one of Ambrian design, although unusually it's just kind of one elongated floor rather than several smaller ones. The other buildings, all log houses with sod roofs, except for the tower just south of the residence, which rises roughly 20 meters into the air, tall enough to see, weather permitting, all the way to the edge of Davakar. The axe and shield soldiers are what seem to be the envoy's personal guard, kind of stride over a few meters after you're through, and you're now being escorted by a group of 10 Vajwad guards. You're led into the low, large residence, which is sort of very well lit. There are sprigs of some kind of herb burning in brackets on the side that give everything a very pleasant floral scent. She gestures, and you are all kind of, there are Beamon pelts. Beamon are like large bears. They're like Garug, but not as big and not as polar bear like. That are brought out and kind of laid in a circle on the floor, and each of you is given a drink of some kind of honey tasting, very mildly alcoholic drink. And Mulgara sits down cross-legged on one of the pelts and waits for you to do the same.
Yeah, take a seat and a little swig.
So, why does the commander send quite a ragtag but well-armed and polite group of adventurers to investigate this offense against the Vajvod people rather than some of his own? She is smiling as she says it.
The answer to a great many of these questions are the same. I'm afraid it is politics. But we are actually not technically here at the commander's behest. We have a connection to one of the murdered parties.
Which
and
one?
a habit. The Theurg.
Umbardo.
Yes.
He didn't deserve that. No one deserves that. But Umbardo especially did not.
Did you know the father well?
Yes. I will not speak of him too much now. It is still open.
We have a tendency of being quite good at sniffing out mysteries such as this. And the smell at the minute is that these murders and a small number of attempted robberies might be connected.
Elaborate.
Well, the murder of the Theurg across the way there must have been conducted by someone with access to the mystical arts, which are unfavorably looked upon within Ambrian society.
Oh,
But
it was almost certainly a witch. Anyone with the basic modicum of knowledge of what happened could tell you that. And it's no surprise. Armando was a callous, murdering. I think I've made myself clear.
Yeah, I feel that there were definitely two legs of the church here, and that they should have come into conflict is no great surprise.
But what has this to do with my burglary? Which I note you haven't asked about yet.
Whoever gained entry to the first Theurg's house obviously has some ability of, well, to put it simply, appearing in locked rooms. And with the proximity to your embassy, it would seem
Not
awfully
to
convenient if you were robbed despite all your security not long after a nearby murder.
We have no reason to be suspicious that it was mystical in nature.
One thing that has also linked these things together is that before the murder of the Theurg, there was a report of the robbery from the same, not a day before.
Seems somewhat circumstantial to me, but I'm happy to share details if that is what you're after, rather than simply discussing these murders.
Yeah. What did they? I understand they did not manage to make off with anything. Is that correct?
That's incorrect, but you know that. It was the trading house where nothing was taken. Well, last night, someone or some people managed to get over the fence and into the residence without being seen. Neither the City Watch in their initial bumblings, nor my own people have found any trace or leads. They ran off with a fair few valuables, but mostly trinkets, silver, gold. But they also left many valuable items behind. Perhaps they were in a hurry, perhaps not. They also raided our archives, pulling books and scrolls from the shelves, many of which were knocked down. At first, I assumed they thought the archives contained some kind of hidden compartment for precious items, but we cleaned, and we tidied, and 3 books are missing.
And what is the content of those books?
One was our latest report on the trade in Vajvod goods on the markets. The second was a report of the number of people visiting the Chapel of the Young Gods in Barbarian Town. And the third, a record of members of other clans who have moved to Ravenna on a more or less permanent basis in the last 3 years.
One of those being the witch who was also murdered.
Their name would certainly be on there, yes.
Sorry, the Chapel of the Young Gods.
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with the term.
Really? Education in Ambria. Well, the young gods are what your gods were called before there was Prios.
Ah,
I suppose what Ambrians might call old gods.
I suppose. Not anymore. I'm sure your Theurgan scholar here could tell you more. I mean, you certainly could, Anton, although it would be fairly dry. Yeah, pantheon to which the Temple of the Many in Castor dedicated itself. The pantheon of Prios before Prios as the life giver.
Whereabouts is that actually? In the old town.
Towards the north. She describes where it is, so you could potentially find it. It's not too far from the place where the witch was murdered.
and did the report name visitors to the chapel?
Yes, that was the purpose of the report.
I think we know 2 of those names.
Perhaps you
I think
do.
we know 3 of them. But I suppose we can't check it now because it's gone.
Assuming those were the only copies.
They were.
Someone is on a mission. And if she weren't dead, I might have suspected Armanda.
On that, we can agree.
Would perhaps maybe the writer of the report or a well-studied reader of the report be willing to answer some questions?
That is what they are doing now.
Were there any other names of significance that you found in that report?
Everyone is significant, are they not? If you don't think that, then you
True.
should not write a report. If you are asking if there are any more of the great and powerful of Ravenna are on that list, the answer is no. Most of the people who attend the Chapel of the Young Gods are the more vulnerable and unfortunate of this town, though many others visit from time to time. The location is well known. It is not a secret. The temple knows it. The city guard know it. But under Duke Inadar's instructions of how the city of Ravenna should be run, no one is troubled for these things. Until now.
So it's not difficult to draw a line between at least some of these murders and the report of people visiting the chapel and the report of people who moved to Ravenna in the last 3 years, if we're taking Kara into account. Do you have any thoughts on why the report of the trade in Vashvod goods might have some connection to all of this? That one.
If I were to speculate, I might posit that perhaps the people who were concerned with attendance at the chapel were maybe also concerned with who has been buying goods from the Vashvod.
There's another matter of another party to this whole thing, which we haven't had a chance to ask about. Steele will look around a little bit furtively. There's rumours of a green weaver who seems to at least have had some tangential connection to the poor witch who was killed.
Would you like to add to this? Perhaps a question?
Have you heard anything about them? A name? Any behaviours?
Might I ask a question before, my lady, of what is a green weaver?
A green weaver is a witch who specializes in certain matters. They are not entirely rare. I do not know who you are talking about.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe this old man's just jumping at shadows. Still interesting that we have 2 reports of people being interested in trade reports now.
Really?
The counting house was also burgled, but all that was stolen, it seems, was information.
You may need to specify which. There are quite a number of trading houses.
Oh, can I get a line from backstage, please?
Galea.
The Galea Company.
I don't think Galea trade that much with the Vajron. But I am not privy to many of these things. I am merely a humble envoy.
Of course, naturally.
So these robberies came from the office wing. Is that this building or different?
The archives. Yes, it is in this
The
building.
archives. And what were these items that you said were left?
The valuable items.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's relevant. Some valuables were taken, others were not.
Oh, I think I may have misunderstood. You don't mean that the burglars left items. You mean that the burglars did not take all of the items.
I fail to understand the distinction between the two.
They did not bring items into the compound and leave them behind.
Correct. That tends to be the opposite of how burglars behave.
This is why I was curious.
When you
brush up on your Ambrian.
When you were checking the ingress points, just a shot in the dark here, did you find any footprints?
No, but then last night was a particularly warm, dry evening. We know where they got in, no? The top of the fence was scuffed. It was fairly clear.
So it was not a supernatural ascent. Okay.
No.
May we see?
You may certainly look at the scuffed wood.
Thank you.
She gestures to one of the guards. Unless there is anything else. Although this has been most interesting, gentlemen.
Thank you for your help.
Of course. And if you feel the need to actually investigate this burglary, as opposed to your own investigations, do let me know.
Moreover, if it turns out that our theory is correct and these are all linked, we will, of course, endeavor to make sure you know as well.
Please, and return my books. You are escorted out from Molgava's reception chamber, I suppose. And the guards, with some interest, point to an area of the fence that has been scuffed.
I am going to try a witch sight roll.
Okay.
There was method to his madness.
That is just about a pass, in fact.
Okay. There is nothing resonant in the shadow of this area.
Okay. It was worth a try.
It is certainly only areas in which have an intrinsic thing to it, you know what I mean? Like person, like so. I mean, you suspect you could see the thing in the first Theurg's room because of the awfulness of the thing that happened.
Yeah. No, I totally get that somebody jumping a fence is unlikely to show up, but I thought it was worth trying. I will look with my eyes.
Look with your human eyes. Vigilant roll, please, of course.
7.
Which is a pass, correct?
Yes, that is a pass.
Yes. You are fairly sure that all there is to see here is the scuffed top of the fence. And that's really it. Like, there's a grassy, like, kind of, not short grass area between here and the residence, but, like, it's been, probably 12 hours at least, and it's dry. Yeah, you can't see anything.
This wood has definitely been scuffed, I would say, by some kind of intruder.
Good job, Alindra. We'll see you as a detective yet.
Possibly while carrying some loot that they will use to replace the loot that they then take from this place.
I misunderstood her. She said they left valuables behind.
Well, if we've got nothing else from this excursion, we know there's a Temple of the Many here, and we should probably call in.
Yeah. And we know that there's a Vajvad ambassador that knows an awful lot about the case that we're investigating in comparison to the amount of information that we got from them.
Yeah, I think that's to be expected, given everyone so far has been surprised at how little the Guard have looked into these crimes.
I was going to comment on that, but I will. I'll save it till after.
Seems fair.
Anything else we want to do while we still have access to this place? Because we can probably get in twice, but I don't want to try my luck.
Do we also want to visit the Galea company?
I mean, you don't know where that is yet.
That's true.
I mean, do you want? There's a weird thing. We never do this in any other story, but there's this weird thing about what's bred in the bone, where I'm like, you don't know where something is, and you're like, oh well, we can't ask just anyone.
Yeah.
There's a Vajvad guards escorting you out of the embassy. Do you want to ask them where the Galea?
Yeah, I was gonna say let's ask the Vajvad guard and not the Ambrian guard. I'll ask that in Vajvad as in the small talk as we leave.
The Vajvad guard, the first one you ask doesn't know. He asks someone else, and she says that she thinks she's seen a sign saying Galea over a trading house that's just off the Octagon, which is where you went. You ate there, and you also the City Watch HQ is there. It's just round the corner down there, so it is not on the Mound. They don't look to be like there isn't like businesses and trading houses and stuff here. It's all fancier things.
I think we've done all we can usually do on the Mound, so I think that probably is our next stop.
One clarification, Matt. The route from the entrance to the Mound to Duke Inadar's palace would not necessarily weave past the front of the Vajvad embassy. Is that a correct assumption?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's acceptable that the guards would not have seen the Fist of Prios, the knife
The
of
whip,
Prios,
the whip of Prios. Yeah, the whip
stabby
of Prios.
boy of
Yeah.
Prios.
Yeah. Whips typically used to stab people. Yes.
Yeah, I think we move on.
Please.
Okay, so we leave the Mound without incident. We were talking of the Chapel of the Young Gods and the Galea trading house, and you guys keep saying counting house, and I have to double check that I am right. But yes, it is the trading house.
Okay, where did that
Which is
come
a
from?
different thing from a
Never
counting
mind.
house.
I had that in my notes, which I thought that's what you said the first time around, but maybe I just misheard you and it's spiraled.
Either way, so where are we going now? There was also talk of reporting back to Sabre at some point. So, what's the thinking?
Where are we now? We're like after lunchtime, mid-afternoon.
Yeah, I'd say you're probably around 2:00. That
Okay,
seems reasonable.
so
2 hours.
geographically, the Galean trading house is probably the nearest to where we are.
Let's bring up
Sabre
the
is
old,
just us. Yeah, do that.
Let's bring up the old map. Yeah, it is the closest. Yeah, it's definitely the closest, actually.
So we're coming out from that gate to the Octagon, and then the Sabre is staying just outside the city walls.
Yeah, do you see where the crossing over the river
By the
is?
crossing.
Yeah, it's on the other side of there.
And then the Chapel of the Young Gods is up in Barbarian Town somewhere.
Yeah, all the way to the top left of that picture, or near the way to the top left of that picture.
So geographically,
So
that's what makes most sense as an order.
It is, although I stress that this is, of course, not an MMO, so you don't have to spend travel time. So you can go whatever order you think is important.
I think Steo's feet are sore enough to want to take the most efficient route. Also, Steo will mention we really should hand that letter over to Seba. It's pertinent.
The letter. What letter?
The rubbing.
Oh, the
The
diary.
one from
Sure. Okay, so we're making our way to the Galea trading house. Yes.
I will say as we walk that we have been quite candid with those we have spoken to so far, but perhaps I don't know.
I think
Um,
we gave more to the Vashod than we needed to.
That is actually very linked to what I was going to comment after the thing, which I certainly from my perspective, it was definitely less that she knew a lot about it and more that you kept telling her things and she seemed to be reaching the same conclusions as you because she ain't stupid. But the fact that
I will
she's
mention.
a local, knowledgeable person and was immediately joining those dots speaks well of your notions.
She knows a lot about it now.
Yeah, she does.
We don't know that
So,
that's a good thing, though.
Aaron, with your astute observation, I think, and your ability to count in terms of hundreds of thaler, or at least 100 of thaler, I think you've volunteered to be the point person for this next one.
Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah, you find yourself not far from the Octagon at a door of a building with maybe 4 floors or so. It looks fairly new built. It's very much a kind of building made for business. It has people going in and out of kind of a side double door who seem to be like going off to various places or bringing things back. It also has like a high what do you call those big upper floor doors that open up with like a pulley system that pulls stuff up. You know, it's clearly got some storage.
Like in a barn type.
Yeah, like in a big bar. It's clearly got some storage type stuff to it as well. And it has, of course, a big sign outside that says Galea. Arendar?
I suppose possibly walk straight in.
Sure. You walk just inside the door, and there is kind of a very well dressed woman in there in kind of high Ambrian fashion, who has someone stood next to her who's very large and meaty with a big, like a sword hung at their hip and a big kind of truncheon in their hands. And she says, "Yes, sir, can I help you? Welcome to Galea."
Good afternoon. I was hoping to speak to perhaps the master or the mistress of the trading house.
That would be Master Iberio, and may I ask why?
I am hoping to lend a service to him, if I may.
Certainly, sir. And what would that service be?
I heard a rumor about town that you've had some sort of trouble.
Are you referring to... You're going to have to be specific, sir.
I hear you've had a problem with a break-in.
Are you investigating said break-in?
I am.
I will see if Master Iberio is free.
Thank you.
She walks off and up and away, and you're left kind of standing there for a good 10 minutes or so before a rather harassed, slightly hefty man, again in kind of sort of Ambrian fashion, but straining at the seams slightly, staggers down the stairs and comes over to you. He's he's quite a sweaty individual with a sort of fancily trimmed beard and a shaved head. And he takes your hand and says, "I'm Master Iberio. The break-in. What are you working for Berlio? It's about bloody time he sent someone."
I'm afraid not, good sir. It's a private investigation.
I mean, I won't turn my nose up at it, but for who, sir?
For you.
Galea have employed you?
No, sir. I am in town and I have heard that you have had some trouble. I would like to lend some assistance.
And who are you?
I am Sir Aaron Dar.
Oh, good lord. Dear Prios, I did not know, sir. I will show you.
Thank you.
Walks up. Do you have common business interests with Galea, Sir Dar?
Not yet.
Oh, but perhaps. Well. Then, in that case, he starts talking to you about Galea. He does not stop talking to you about Galea for a good more 10 minutes, and is particularly talking about a lot of it is complaints about how Galea are so promising and dominant in the local trade that a coalition of minor competitors seem to be bent on outdoing Galea, which is clearly impossible. As far as he's concerned, Galea own the River Dudram, particularly trade in pelts, antlers, and meat from Clan Vajvod. He shows you eventually to a basically a kind of, I mean, it is essentially a kind of archive or library room, I suppose, more than anything, where he says that there was no particular sign of forced entry, but the accounting ledgers had clearly been moved around the room. Perhaps they were studied, perhaps they were copied, and in his eyes, this is clear evidence that this sort of growing coalition of smaller companies or smaller agencies is trying to outdo Galea. It's industrial espionage, right? It is what he's hinting at. He also talks at length about Captain Ialna's incompetence, Commander Berlio and Duke Inadar's lenience towards the local trading houses is not investigating this further. It gives you several pet theories about the individuals involved, and generally feels like he's mostly wasting your time for, I'd say, a good half an hour. And then at the end of it, kind of claps his hands and says, "So, is there anything else you would need, Sadar?"
Have other people been looking at the scene while I have been very earnestly having a conversation with this man?
Oh yeah,
sure.
Good prompt.
It's worth noting that if you have tried, you're welcome to walk around the room. It's not a huge room, but it's, again, not small either. There are a number of kind of lecterns with various books on where things are noted down in. There are a number of scribes kind of walking around, noting things and walking in and out of the room and so on and so forth. It's worth noting that if any point any one of you tries to open one of those ledgers or look inside them, Master Iberia will go, excuse me, please. No. I'm doing business with your master. If you just be patient."
I don't think I would want to look in the ledgers because I would anticipate that as a response.
Sure, but yeah, if you're just having a look around, feel free to make an intro roll.
I'm kind of interested.
This was 3 weeks ago, so bear that in mind.
I might try and color one of the scribes.
The scribe kind of glances over at Iberio, sees that he's waxing lyrical to Arindar about some aspect of River Doodram trade, and says, "Yes, sir."
My master is investigating the attack, or the attempted robbery, I suppose, or the robbery of information. But it looks like he's going to be otherwise engaged for a little while yet. May I ask, as clearly a person of some knowledge, have you found any commonalities on what was looked at on the evening of the burglary?
How would we know what was looked at?
So there was no evidence that they were looking at a specific time period or a specific class of good.
Some books were moved.
Great.
They're
if
just ledgers. They've all got trade and accounting detail in them, but it's fairly mixed. I mean, some of it's sort of unique, but it's mostly time based, and some of them were moved. One of them, I think, was a ledger from last year.
Oh, well, that's not entirely unuseful.
I
Yeah,
think
thank
at
you.
the
I just
time
would be-
we asked Master Iberio if we should try and make a more careful accounting of which books had been moved, and he told us to get back to work. So
Fair. Well, it would be uncharacteristically lucky of us for them to have left a clear description of what they were after when they came in here.
yep. Is that everything? I really have a lot to do. So
if Anton is sort of privy to this conversation going on, then he might interject at this point and just ask about, friend, is the ledgers in here? If someone would someone need to know the system by which they are organized to find the information they need?
to do it
is
quickly,
Yes.
to do it quickly, certainly, yes. I struggle, and I write most of them.
So is it possible that there is someone familiar with this, perhaps within this, I was going to say counting house, trading house?
It's possible. I mean, you'd have to get any kind of relevance out of this information at all, you'd have to know what it was all about.
And presumably this information is just
numbers and items. It's
yes, and presumably it's just available for the members of this organization, not to outsiders as well, as a rule.
Anyone who works from Galea can come in here and look at the ledgers. This isn't a secret room.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
So, amid all the conversations, I passed a vigilant roll.
Okay. I mean, you can't see anything untoward, but you're not sure you would 3 weeks later anyway.
Sure. I guess the thing that I was specifically interested in the room was, like, what does the security of this place look like? Like, how easy or otherwise would it have been to get in? And
certainly easier than the Vajwad embassy. There are a few guards scattered around, but they look less. They're thugs hired by a merchant's trading house. They're not like professional warriors by the look of them. I mean, realistically speaking, if you you suspect if you crept through a window somewhere downstairs, as long as someone who knew you shouldn't be there didn't see you, you could probably make your way to this room. It's no more guarded than, you're sure there are more guarded rooms in this building, like wherever they keep the money and the goods.
Sure. But
it's just an office. It's an office.
Ascarai at nighttime would probably not break a sweat.
You'd certainly rate his chances, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it has to be said, it's growing increasingly apparent to all of you that the entire evidence that there was a break-in was some of the ledgers were moved.
Yeah, it's screaming red herring to me at this point.
Good.
Cool. I think I've seen everything I need to see.
Okay.
Well, kind of. Maybe I'll kind of work my way behind Arundar, who's probably still being lectured by the master, and we'll kind of just give him the kind of the nod that we're okay to leave now.
In which case, good sir, I believe we have everything we need.
Oh, well, thank you. That's I'm sure we could do some good business together, Sadar. Let me know what comes of your investigations, and I'm certain you were investigating some other kind of atrocious business practice from one. He's literally starting to go into another. You do manage to extricate yourself. You do all manage to extricate yourself from the building. Yeah, you leave the Galea trading house.
And it didn't cost us a thala.
Nope.
Well,
Okay.
That went well, but we got basically nothing.
I don't think there was anything to get in there. I think maybe there was industrial espionage. Maybe there wasn't. I don't think this place is important in any measurable way.
We got that they do trade with the Vajvod.
The Vajvod said not much. So who do you believe?
If they're tracing down one thing in particular, they don't.
I wouldn't rule out that somebody looking for the kind of trading records that they got from the Vajvod might try here first as an easier way to get the same information.
Oh, you're very clever.
I think if this robbery happened before the Vajvod embassy, then either they're unconnected or whoever it was didn't find what they were looking for here.
That's astoundingly good logical, Indra. I think given the next stop is the chapel, I think we spend the time now to drop that letter off to Deseva.
And on that note, I think we'll wrap the episode there. I do have a really good cliffhanger lined up, and I tried to persuade you to go there, but was no doing. We had to go talk to Master Iberio instead, didn't we?
I enjoyed that.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad. I am heartened and gladdened in every possible conceivable way. Awesome. Great session, guys. John, do you want to check out the chat for comments and questions? Leave your comments and questions in said chat if you want them to be popped up. And in the meantime, I'll do a bit of promo. Check below for a bunch of links to Discord, social media, everywhere we can be found, Patreon, all the usual stuff. We are running a bunch of stuff on a weekly or fortnightly basis at the moment. Mondays is alternating between We Deal in Lead and Warhammer. Wednesdays is Symbaroum. And on Thursdays, we had Yellow King just start last week, which is a wonderful alternate history, cosmic horror extravaganza. That's on fortnightly, so it won't be back tomorrow, but we'll be back next week. But go check it out. It's still on Twitch and it's on YouTube. Incidentally, if you are confused about these things, it's probably worth mentioning a few times now and then. All of our streams that go to YouTube end up on a live tab. YouTube doesn't let you easily move them because they're weird. So if you're confused that these things cannot be found, check out the live tab. We also run one-shots on a more or less monthly basis. The next one is this Sunday, where I'll be running Cloud Empress with some of the wonderful crew. It's a lovely little indie TTRPG kind of environmental post-apocalypse thing that I'm assured is very much like an anime called Nausicaa. But I do not know of such things. So I cannot confirm or deny, but I've been told this. Yeah, I think that's just about everything. John, do you want to start popping up some of the old comments? Steve, next one shot, gritty Scooby-Doo RPG. I mean, isn't that just Call of Cthulhu?
I mean, that's not what we're already doing, given Farron's involvement.
Yeah.
I guess the Call of the Cthulhu version is not that the monster turns out to be the caretaker. It's that the
Monster.
caretaker turns out to be the monster.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. They're not
Sorry.
like someone committing insurance fraud. They're a kind of inbred
Fish person, yeah.
demi-human
Cultist.
monstrosity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just temporarily reeling from the revelation that Arindar is the Shaggy of this Scooby Gang, and then realize that no, that's actually very accurate.
Oh no, himbo energy.
That has to be the only time that Shaggy has ever been referred to as a himbo.
I'm trying to
Probably
work out what that
Fred's
makes the
in the
rest of
thing.
us.
Next.
Yeah,
Anton's
let's
dad.
move
there's,
on.
there's a whole round table in this.
42. Which site rebranded as Prius site? Yeah,
That
let's
would,
see how
save us
many
some.
of the Curia that'll convince. Don't Kick Food says it's a hybrid.
That was immediately after the previous one.
Yes,
I liked that.
understand. I understand.
I liked that.
Yeah, like the witch site is like useful enough that Alindra wants to talk about it, but also not something that she wants to like deeply
Highlight.
investigate what it
Yeah,
is or
yeah,
where
yeah.
it comes from.
Yeah.
It feels a bit too much like one of those staring into the abyss.
Yeah,
sort of
like
deals.
your sword that you discovered occasionally seems to talk and maybe devour people's souls.
Yeah.
Probably not something you want to dig too deep into.
There's just this thing that happens sometimes. It's a bit weird, but we'll take the win. Okay. Like,
Yeah.
A theme throughout the campaign so far,
yeah.
actually.
Nightbite's tense cliffhanger denied. Yeah, well, what can you do? What can you do? You try and help them out. You try, but they just want to be efficient.
That trading house could have been an amazing set piece for all we knew.
It could have been. Steve, you could burn people with a candlestick. It just takes a while. Yeah. 42. At least he didn't try and sell you on Davokar NFTs.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced he didn't.
He had that energy about him, didn't he?
I think Aaron enjoyed being very enthusiastically advertised to for about 40 minutes.
I noticed
generic business wanker.
I liked that there was a moment there that I felt how well we gelled as a party, though, that it just became complete second nature without any like prior communication for us all to be like, yep, he's the boss. We're all working for him.
Yeah.
In
with
this
different
scene.
people over the course of 1 second.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're all kind of just becoming more like who people expect us to be in any given situation, and that's nice.
Or sociopathic, depending.
I mean, it depends on circumstances, doesn't it?
Yeah. Next. Zeron, question for Mike. Out of the other PCs, which one does Anton trust the most and which one does he trust the least?
That's a bloody question. Are we talking in-game here, or are we...
Yeah, we're talking
in-game. I think...
we know he... Well, I'm not a player, but he trusts me the least.
Undoubtedly true. In terms of the player characters, I think... I don't want to give too much of a politician's answer, but I think he trusts each player character in different ways and with different things. Like, I think that Ascarai and Anton share like a similar view on sort of like the Iron Pact sort of thing. So when it comes to sort of like matters of that, I think he's quite aligned with Ascarai. Like, especially like his Ascarai is quite like anti-elves and stuff like that. Anton very much would trust Ascarai with matters to do with that. Definitely trusts Ilindra's like, in some way sort of innately because of like the church connection and belief in Prios, even though that is a sort of like a grey area within Ilindra's character. Trusts Arindar probably in sort of more moral matters compared to the rest of the group. um, and then there's Theo.
Well,
Is
Who's
this your
also here?
final revenge? Is this your final revenge for the fact I put you in the not friend boat like 4 years ago?
I was going to say, but which one would Anton rather share a kayak with?
Shout outs to anyone who's been watching this series for like 4.5 years and gets that reference.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Rishi. And what
No,
I
think Anton does trust Theo. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's a kayak boats crossover reference to be made there, but I'm not bold to do it myself. Next thing.
Is
that it? That's it. That's your lot. Yeah, so thank you very much, folks. We will return for more Symbaroum next week. Yellow King will also crop up again on your screens next week. And like I say, this Sunday we're going to be running Cloud Empress. So why not join us? Why the hell not? I can't think of a single reason. There's literally nothing. There's no reason that anyone could have that they don't want to tune in and watch it on Sunday. Cool. Take care. Stay safe. And we'll see you soon. Goodbye.